This episode will be dedicated to the album review of Hemlock Springs' debut album called The Apple Tree Under the Sea. If you want to hear more, please stick around. This is all gas, no trash. My name's Adam, and welcome back to the program, and welcome to a brand new episode. We are here to listen to this debut album, and largely I have mainly been aloof of Hemlock Springs music as of late. I did listen to the initial songs that were released early in her discography. You know, the song everybody knows is Girlfriend, and then eventually that EP came out, Going, Going, Gone, if I'm not mistaken, is what it's called. But everything after the fact, I haven't really paid attention to. But I will say I really did enjoy that that EP, which featured songs like Girlfriend and also Heaven and also Anyone. But everything else that was in that EP, I wasn't all that enthusiastic about. So I'm not sure what we're getting with this debut album because I haven't actually listened to any of the singles that have been released within this debut album. There's, I believe, 10 songs to be featured on this debut album. So we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of going in with no preconceived notions or any expectations. I'm going in blind, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hopeful that this will be an enjoyable experience, and I hope you enjoyed as well. As you know, you will be listening on your own. You'll have to pull these songs up individually on your digital streaming platform of choice, but I will remind you with every song that we listen to. But let's go ahead and get to the intro of the album. As far as an introduction goes for this episode and also for the album itself, I looked up a bunch of articles and also excerpts that Hemlock Springs had given herself. And the one that kind of stood out to me the most was her talking about having grown up in a Nigerian family that was heavily into Christianity. I probably could have phrased that better, but ultimately she felt that it was a limited scope or an insulated lifestyle to have grown up in that environment. And I'm not saying that in any negative way, but certainly somebody that is in a regimented lifestyle that may not be able to exhibit their own personality or whatever it might be, it kind of creates a limited perspective of the world and perhaps even yourself. You don't know anything beyond what you know as far as biblical teachings and stuff like that. But for her to evolve from that and really come into her own skin with all the fantasy elements and bombastic and even outlandish fashion choices and just the way the music has come out, I would have never expected her to make the music that she makes, but just really come into her own skin. So it's a cool story to see how much success she's been able to have. And in addition to that, to really get to the point, this all comes to one of the central themes of the album, which is, I guess, exploration, in the sense that Hemlock Springs is biting into the forbidden fruit from the Bible, I guess, making an allusion to the Bible in the same way that Eve was able to bite the fruit and gain this forbidden knowledge, right? So Hemlock Springs is kind of making that comparison once more with herself, being or having grown up in an environment that was extremely limiting, right? She is finally opening herself up to the world and, finding out who she is herself, but also creating her own perspective, her own worldview. And here we have it elaborated on with this album. So I think this is just very cool things to bring forth on an album. I'm not sure what to expect because, as I said previously, I actually haven't listened to any of the singles that have been released in anticipation of this album, but let's go ahead and get to it. So let's get to the album credits. The Apple Tree Under the Sea is performed by Hemlock Springs. Writing and arrangement is done by Simi Naomi Udu and also Matthew James Burns. Production and engineering done by Hemlock Springs. And also Burns, which I believe is the studio name of, or producer name of Matthew James Burns. Just had to point that out real quickly. And then, let's go ahead and get to the album itself. The first track we're going to listen to is called The Red Apple. As usual, go ahead and pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice, and let's give this song a listen. Once again, that track is The Red Apple from Hemlock Springs. Pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice, and let's give it a listen. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her song called The Red Apple. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. I'm not exactly sure where to start as far as my personal thoughts go, but I'll start with that I really liked this track. I thought it was a great way to set the tone for the album. I'm going to make a weird comparison, but it reminded me of Metal Gear Solid 4 when they had the reveal trailer or the opening cutscene where it's like Ocelot and also Old Snake, and they're riding in the desert, and it was really to showcase how this game had pivoted to a really open sandbox environment and just like the vastness of the world, right? And I feel like we're getting that with Hemlock Springs kind of giving this not only fantastical element in her music, but also uh, biblical or Abrahamic themes that are being pitched. And it's all done within the instruments. It's done in the lyrics. It's done with the voice of Hemlock Springs herself. It's just a very fucking cool track that I really enjoyed, and I'm not exactly sure if she is making the comparison of herself to Eve, or if she's saying she is Eve herself, biting the forbidden fruit and being tempted and calling on God to, I guess, clear her mind or save herself. And also getting like a call to arms to say, rid the world of evil from humankind, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's one of the lyrics. I didn't get it word for word, but that was like it paraphrased. But this was just a very cool intro for this album, and I'm kind of curious if it's gonna have her. I don't know if siding with evil is the correct phrase, but having been lied to her entire life, or finding out that there is more to the world than what she initially thought, and the forbidden fruits having given her that knowledge. I'm very curious to see what goes on with the narrative within this album. So, with that said, this was a fucking excellent track to start off the album, and I can't wait to hear the rest. So, let's go ahead and get to the next track. And it is called The Beginning of the End. Well, that's a bold title for what was already a fantastic opening to the album, so maybe it is the death of Hemlock Springs of old and her evolving into the new version of herself, but I can only speculate. We can only find that out by listening. So let's go ahead and get to the next track. Go ahead and pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice. Once again, that track is called The Beginning of the End, and we're going to give it a listen. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called The Beginning of the End. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. I think this is quite a profound track for the reason that I think this is Hemlock Springs exploring for more answers than what is being offered. For her to have coped with reality with opioids, or to have religion be the answer for a lot of the questions she may be asking, especially within the part of verse 2 where she starts off by saying, sometimes I think I should avoid the simpleness of fraternizing paranoia, that there is a community, and perhaps it is a Christian denomination, a church or something, that is instilling these ideas in people's heads that if you do anything that isn't deemed acceptable by a Christian church or even Christian values, that you are sinning and therefore you will go to hell. And we have Hemlock Springs exploring that. In addition, you have her coping with reality, having taken opioids to, I guess, fill the void or fill the hole, which, that's some heavy stuff. And the parts that I really enjoyed as far as the lyrics go, though, the parts that stood out to me the most personally are in the pre-chorus where she says, and maybe I'm part of the plan, referring to perhaps having a predestined life within Christianity, where maybe her parents already had it figured out what she was going to be doing, perhaps being a doctor or XYZ, and she would be married and have kids and all that. Well, perhaps that's all going to be thrown out the window because the next line she says is, maybe I'm a slight to your hand, that she might be feeling a little bit devious or deviant. She might be coming up with her own ideas of what she wants to do with her own life, and seemingly she has followed through on that because she is a recording and performing artist. But there's also this other part that I really liked in the second pre-chorus where she says, and maybe I'm a grain in the sand, referring to her own insignificance, if this ultimately matters at all. Maybe it's the way I am, talking about her own, I guess, evaluating herself, perhaps as being weird or strange or feeling like an outcast within religion or perhaps even her own family. But the last part where she says, maybe I'm a con of man, which is fucking heavy for so few words that are spoken. Perhaps she feels like being a woman is like a defective version of man, or perhaps an evil version of man, referring back to Eve from the Garden of Eden, the one that had bitten the fruit and influenced Adam to also bite from the forbidden fruit. That's heavy stuff, man. Like, that is some real beautiful lyrical stylings. Yeah, these lyrics are really awesome. And as far as the song goes, I mean, there's this crazy bass synthesizer, this buzzsaw bass synthesizer that's happening throughout the verse, and then the song kind of switches over to this like soft synth pop, like upbeat portion. And I like that dichotomy of flipping between that. It's talking about some really serious stuff in the verses and then kind of flipping that with the within the chorus. So this song was a home run for me. I thought it was a outstanding track for only having listened to 2 songs of the 10 that are available. I've really enjoyed this album so far. I hope this keeps up with the other 8 tracks. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. The next song that we're going to be listening to is called Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Ankles. I don't know what we're in for, but let's hope it's another great track. Once again, that track is called Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Ankles, pulled up on your digital streaming platform of choice, and let's give it a listen going in. Welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Ankles. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. This track is hilarious. I like the idea of ankles being like this forbidden body part that we're not supposed to see, or at least, back in decades past. I don't know if it was like the 1700s or 1800s, but it reminds me of The Simpsons, of this episode that was like reimagined tall tales with Simpsons characters, and this one story with Bart and Nelson as Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer, where they're going down like this log ride, or they're going down a river, and it turns out to be a log ride that they have to pay for. And there's this guy that's at the photo booth, because for those of you that have gone to Disneyland, when you go on the log ride, you get your photo taken because people make funny reactions when they go down the slope. And there's this woman within this episode that's showing her ankles, and this guy's like such a pervert. He's like, oh, yes, all for Silas, all for Silas. And it just makes me laugh because at one point, yeah, ankles were kind of like a forbidden body part that people had a fetish for or whatever it was. But yeah, this track was fucking hilarious. I really enjoyed it. And that little jukebox melody that's in the background that you can hear along with those like heavy keys. Fuck, I have the idea that in my head that Hemlock Springs can write a whole musical. I really genuinely believe that within this track, Hemlock Springs has the capability to write an original musical. And I think about somebody like Danny Elfman, who was, making music for Oingo Boingo back in the day. And there was songs that just kind of stood out that had the potential for him to start composing music for film. Then you, of course, you have Tim Burton that finds somebody like Danny Elfman to write music for all his films and also for The Simpsons and a bunch of other movies like Spider-Man and Batman and all, everybody, everything else that he's participated in. But I think Hemlock Springs has the capability of doing something like this because the way this song is structured, it feels like a musical or an opera or something of that sort. But as far as the story goes, I'm not exactly sure what the fuck is going on. I'm under the impression that there's an angel within heaven that is like jealous of human beings having free will. So he shoots Hemlock Springs with an arrow and she starts exploring like sexual exploration. She's I don't know, like having relations with other men, and this guy has become really attached to Hemlock Springs, and he's doing all these things to get her affection. And she's like moving from man to man, or at least that's my understanding of it. And this Cupid's like, oh man, what the fuck have I done? I shot her with an arrow or something, and now she's going on this whole sexual exploration adventure. How could this even be possible? How could this even be possible when a benevolent force like an angel is supposed to be on the side of good, but he ultimately created a net evil, I guess, so to speak, with Hemlock Springs going out and just having relations with men. At least that's the understanding that I have of it. But there's like this Baroque feeling or Baroque way that this music is created. I don't know what it is. It feels like something that could have been made by like Mozart or Bach or some shit. I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody more eloquent can spell it out or say it in a better fashion within the comments. But I fucking love this track. It seems like Hemlock Springs is coming out of her shell and really getting herself invested in what the world has to offer. So let's go ahead and get to the next track. And that one is called... Oh, I got to pull it up real quickly. No! It's called WWWWW. So that's 5 W's. Pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice and let's give it a listen. Once again, that track is called WWWWW. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called WWWWW. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. I hope I counted 5 W's. As far as what I thought about the song, I thought it was a fucking banger for a multitude of reasons that I'll explain why. For starters, sonically, I think this song is an act of defiance in many ways, not just lyrically with her rejecting marriage with like a 73-year-old man, and also against her family to not abide by Christian values or a Christian life that was probably predestined, had everything figured out for her, didn't have any independent thought or an independent life. But we also have like the instruments themselves portraying that idea where you have the Afro beats in the beginning that would be an homage to her Nigerian roots, acknowledging that she's still, honoring her family, so to speak, in some way by putting that stuff in her music, but also rejecting everything that she has, gone through. And I think the parts where the keys are played, they kind of sound organ-like and can be potentially referring to church music. So to have this song about being being married to a religious person, I'm not sure if like this person was white, because it does say that this person said like racial epithets, and then that he was gonna save Hemlock Springs from her own family because they were going through like pain and suffering, and her parents saying, "Oh yeah, go ahead and take her away. We, deal with her or whatever." I think on a meta fucking level, Hemlock Springs is almost giving her own, I guess, book within the Bible, I guess, so to speak. Like on a meta level, this is Hemlock Springs trying to give her own perspective much like the Bible itself has different books from different disciples and stuff and accounts from different people, I think this could be taken in a literal and fictional sense. Literal in the way that I guess, let's say John the Baptist baptized Jesus. That was a thing that happened in the Bible, right? But then you also have the fictional sense where you have parables, stories that are not actually real but are intended to teach a lesson. I think this can be interpreted for every song, where they can be taken in a literal and in a fictional sense as parables, but things that actually fucking happened. And I'm wondering, which one is it for this particular song? Was Hemlock Springs in a situation where her family offered her to potentially a white racist religious man for her to marry so that they can get rid of her? And she said no. In an act of defiance, she says, I would rather fucking kill myself than be married to this person. So that is my preposterous idea about what is going on with this album, is that Hemlock Springs is giving her own accounts of Christianity, and she is pointing out all the flaws and things that are wrong, while also talking about exploring who she is as a person, and also like how she identifies herself. And perhaps that's why she's the way that she is, and why she chooses to be the character or person that she is as Hemlock Springs. So this is just fantastic stuff. I love what's going on with this album. I can't say enough good things, and this track was a real standout for me. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. The next song we're going to be listening to is called Moses, which is rather fitting for what we just talked about. Old crusty men marrying young adults and procreating, especially within religious books like the Quran, and also the Bible and the Torah, where you have these male figures that marry very young females and have multiple wives, and they're treated like property, and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of fun stuff in all those religious texts. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to the song. Once again, that song is called Moses. Pull it up on your digital stream platform of choice. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Moses. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. All right, I have my theory about how I thought Hemlock Springs was creating her own version of, I don't know if it's necessarily the Bible, but let's just say the Book of Hemlock Springs, right? I feel like she's poking fun or making a satire of the Bible itself while inserting her own personal experiences. And like I said, I think they can both be taken in the literal and fictional sense, where she is potentially in a marriage with, or in a relationship with, somebody that's supposed to be pious, right? That is a follower of God, right? And this person is saying that they're doing whatever it is they're doing for the greater good. In the context of this song, it is making the reference to Moses and how he parted the waters so that he can lead the Jews to the promised land, right? But then at least from what I could remember, I think Moses had two wives, and perhaps Hemlock Springs is like, well, if this person is supposed to be the man of God, like why am I the one that he abhors, and he has somebody else that is involved? Because there's a part in the song where she's like, oh God, acknowledge me for what is going on. I'm not the person that's the problem in our relationship. This guy already has a side piece going on, and how am I in this situation supposed to be following him and his orders and what we're supposed to be doing? And that at least at the beginning of the song, there's a part where she talks about holding hands, and I'll give you the clothes off my back, but he's like, no, don't even bother, because you wouldn't even want them anyways. So I think this track is pretty damn good, especially with the fact that it's got these break beats, and I just thought it was really fucking cool. And I think what Hemlock Springs is doing with the overarching story within this album, and even just track by track, fuck yes, man, this shit fucking slaps, and I can't wait to hear more. So let's go ahead and get to the next song. Actually, I do want to follow up on the lyrics, especially for some of the verses. But I'll start off with the chorus itself, where she's bringing these ideas forth about not dissolving like salt till the end of her days, referring to Sodom and Gomorrah, where there was all kinds of debauchery going on, and then God is going to nuke the field, and his followers are told to escape, and then if they looked back, they would be turned into stone or salt. Can't remember which one it was, but and then there's a portion in one of the verses where she's talking about having her hands used, and she feels as though she's just being used in a meaningless gesture to feel included. So she feels like she's been stunted as a human being and as a woman, which could probably be a parallel that could be drawn to women within the Bible that were, they felt like they were less than or not an equal to man. Um, so I think some interesting ideas are brought forth with the biblical references and also, I guess, personal accounts that she's sharing, whether they are in the literal sense or fictional sense. If she has entered a relationship with like an elderly person or something, and that they're on this mission, like Moses, to find the Holy Lands, and perhaps within her own life, that this would be fulfilling for her to be in this like um, Christian relationship or Christian marriage, that her life would be fulfilled and she would have purpose. But that's clearly not the case with her, that she feels like this is inhibiting her as a human being. There's just some really interesting things that are being tackled with all the songs that we've heard so far. So I know I feel like I'm going on a whole rant with every song, but there's so much to take away from what she's offering, and I just really enjoy the tracks that we've heard. And I think we're about halfway through the album at this point. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to the next track, and it is called Sever the Blight. So go ahead and pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice, and let's give it a listen. Once again, that track is called Sever the Blight from Hemlock Springs. Going in. Welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Sever the Blight. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. All right, I am a bit confused, a little bit, not exactly, but I do wonder if the person that is, I guess, Prince Charming in this story is the same one that we've heard in other songs, or if this is Hemlock Springs experiencing other relationships, other romantic relationships with different men, and she happened to be abducted with, in this one. She's held captive, and she has Stockholm syndrome, and she thinks the way she's been being treated is actually nice, and that this person is Prince Charming. And yeah, this track is really fucking interesting. Maybe this is Hemlock Springs breaking away from her religious upbringing and exploring the world for herself, and kind of being ignorant to what a healthy relationship looks like. She ended up being abducted, and she knows, she's perhaps coming to the conclusion that maybe she should step away from this, or escape, or break away, as the song is titled Sever the Blight, get away from like the toxicity or the agent that is causing pain to her. She is perhaps developing an idea within her mind that, this probably isn't healthy and I shouldn't be here. So I feel like this is the growing pains of Hemlock Springs, kind of understanding the world outside of the Garden of Eden, which is really, I guess, and then in the context of the album, it's like a shell or insulated world that she knew, but now that she's bitten the forbidden fruit, she's got a better understanding of what like the outside world is actually like. And through the experience of like men, I guess she has had quite a bit of adventures, so to speak. So I like this track. I think it's interesting. It's so interesting to see how many of these tracks are synth pop, or I mean, there's break beats in either the previous song or the one before that. So there's like break beats, synth pop, dance pop. I mean, there might be a little bit more than that, but in terms of what has been offered within this album, I have enjoyed it a ton, and I can't wait to see how the rest of this album plays out. I was thinking that if it were even conceivably possible, I think we should see Hemlock Springs and Hot and Freddy on a tour together. but that's just a harebrained idea from me. But let's get to the next track, which is called Sense Is Prelude. So this is a warm up to the next song, which is called Sense Is. We'll see if this track is just not exactly a throwaway track, but if there's lyrics or if it's just purely instrumental. Anyways, pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice and let's give it a listen. Once again, that is Sense Is Prelude. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Sense Is Prelude. I feel like there's a lot going on in this track without having any words and only being a minute and 30 seconds. Purely an instrumental track, but I think what is being offered here is that the minor chords that are being played on the pizzicato harp, or the harp being played in a pizzicato style, feels ambiguous and creates uncertainty sonically. And then you have Hemlock Springs, who is represented here through the chimes. I feel like it gives an element of like fantasy and escapism, like she's trying to get out of a situation. But at the very end, you have like this percussive noise that sounds like foot stomps, or it could be actually be a drum kit that's creating that marching sound. But I think that could both represent Hemlock Springs' determination to get out of a situation, but also to instill fear that she's being chased after by like a military or something. Because there are words, like spoken words in the background that you can faintly hear that sound like sermons or something. I heard something like referring to prayer, or I'm not sure what it was exactly, but maybe this malevolent figure is trying to harm like Hemlock Springs, or that's the idea that I'm getting at, which would make sense with the end of the track having the marching or stomping sounds in the background. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but this track definitely set up the next one. So let's go ahead and listen to the next track, which is Sense Is. Pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice and let's give it a listen. Once again, that track is Sense Is from Hemlock Springs, Going In. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Sense Is. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Man, everything that I just said about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes ago, about how I felt like Hemlock Springs was escaping from a situation, that very much came true in this track, where there's like this militant fanaticism that's going on in the background. And I feel like Hemlock Springs went away from whatever vicious cycle she was in to another. And I think the subtext here is maybe she's talking about the music industry at large and whatever figure is in her life. I'm not sure if this is like her taking jabs at a manager that she had, that she was being exploited, and she's been being told all these nice things like, oh, how great you are as an artist and you're so fantastic, and all these empty. There's a specific lyric in the one of the verses where it says everything that had to do with like valor and honor, and these words that people are telling me of how great I am and all these niceties are meaningless because none of these people actually mean what they say. And perhaps even more so with this potential like managerial figure, at least that's what I'm choosing to take away. This is my own interpretation of the song, that she's now in another vicious cycle, having escaped her previous situations and now transitioned over to being an artist, and now finding out that it's just as vicious as everything she's already experienced in her own life, and now she has another person that's like exploiting her, I guess. And fucking A, man, that is some crazy ass stuff. That, I mean, we're already like 8/10 of the way through the album at this point. I hope it ends on a happy note, because this has been some crazy shit to listen to. But man, this fucking album is so outrageously awesome. I can't say enough good things about it. I don't even want to talk about like the instrumental portion, all this shit. I mean, obviously this whole album's kind of anchored by synth pop music, and I'm sure there's other elements or other genres that are included here, but it's just the storytelling with all the tracks has been so amazing, and the melodies and all the instruments featured, all the synthesizers and stuff, especially on the part of Hemlock Springs and Burns working as a duo. This is a excellent album, and let's go ahead and get to the next two tracks. And let me see what this song is called real quickly. The next song is called Set Me Free. How fitting. Anyways, pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice and let's go ahead and give it a listen. Once again, that track is called Set Me Free from Hemlock Springs. Going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Set Me Free. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. All right, I thought this track was really fucking interesting because now we have her returning to her Nigerian roots with that wooden xylophone or vibraphone sound. And I'm not sure if there's a genre that's specifically from Nigeria that she's applying to this particular track, but I'd be very curious. But I like that this track has this really bubbly synth pop sound. And what would a pop album be without having some track being a euphemism for fucking sex? Especially with one of the lyrics where she says, I hope you want to lose your mind. What is it? I hope you want to lose your mind. I hope you want to lose your mind to a place of mass eruption. Jesus. I don't know. This track was like very funny to me, but I guess in grand scheme, it's probably about finally finding a healthy relationship. And I wonder if there's like a something else going on, like there's more subtext that I'm not picking up on, or maybe this is it. Maybe my guess is that she's gonna end up returning to her Nigerian roots and also be like this fantastical witch figure or something. I'm not sure, because she was in this civilized society where she was part of a Christian family and all that stuff, and it just wasn't working out for her. And now she's kind of returning to a more, I guess, grounded to earth reality or perspective. So she's like returning to her Nigerian roots. Maybe she's gonna be a witch by the end of this. I'm not sure, but it is nice to see that she has found somebody healthy to experience a loving relationship after having heard the other stuff in the other songs about how abusive men have been in her life. And I think perhaps maybe to a exaggerated sense, maybe some of the stuff happened, maybe it didn't. I mean, that story where she's abducted in one of the songs, I don't know if that actually happened to her, but or even like the Moses story about, I mean, obviously that didn't happen. She didn't marry a 73-year-old man, or maybe she did. I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear it from her own words. What parts of this album are true, which one aren't. But anyways, this was, to me, I don't want to say it was a throwaway track, but it was something you would expect from a pop album. I was waiting for something like this, and it actually came at the very end. But just another enjoyable track from this album, and let's finish it strong with the next one. Which is called, what is it called? Be the Girl. Oh, here we go. Down with the patriarchy, and, this is Hemlock Springs being fully realized as a human being. Get ready. Get fucking ready. You heard it here. The track is called Be the Girl. Pull it up on your digital streaming platform of choice, and let's give it a listen. Be the Girl from Hemlock Springs, going in. All right, welcome back. That was Hemlock Springs with her track called Be the Girl. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. All right. I think this is the best possible ending for the album. I don't think it's the fairy tale ending that you might have expected, and maybe she was subverting our expectations that she would end up in a healthy relationship. But I think the goal here is to realize her own potential, her own resilience, her own identity as a human being and as a woman, that she doesn't need somebody in her life to feel validated, to feel happy, whatever it might be. And she has enough maturity to realize, like, hey, didn't work out, but I wish you all the best, which is, indicative of somebody that's at least mature enough to realize that, even though things don't work out, you don't have to have a vendetta against somebody because, the relationship fell apart or whatever. But I have this idea. I think I kind of missed the mark a little bit, but in the sense that I thought we were going to get the happy ending, but I don't think I missed much by her opting to be the sea witch, because there's this thing at the very end. It's like the outro where she says the part where it says, be the girl, eat the apple, and stick the pearl. So I think this what is happening here is that she's opting to own her womanhood or her femininity with no shame whatsoever. Like, she is who she is. And this is, I don't know if this is a stretch, but I'm saying that stick the pearl means that she is giving love in her own way, like talking about masturbation, like, oh, I don't need a man to fucking, please myself or to make myself happy. I can masturbate. I wouldn't put her past her, but the idea of her becoming this witch, I feel like, is coming to fruition here, where she says she's biting the apple and and choosing herself over men, which I think is I think it's a great way to end the album. I don't know if I have anything else to say about the track, but the way that it ended, it feels like people would break out in song and dance in the audience for like all the women that love Hemlock Springs and her music. I feel like it would end in a circle, not exactly a mosh pit, but like a conga line of everybody just kind of like pogo dancing or jumping up and down and, just being in their girlhood, I guess. And I don't know, man. I had a really good time with this album. I didn't know what to expect, but I feel like I got a lot out of it. So let's go ahead and get to final thoughts and the score for the album. Final thoughts and score. I just wanted to add something else onto the Be the Girl portion. So I'm coming to this idea that Hemlock Springs is talking about when in one of the verses she's talking about how she knew who she was back then and she knows who she is now, where maybe she was subservient to man or felt like she was less than back then, but she can't go back to that life after having experienced everything. She's like a changed woman, which would make sense for why the title of this song was called Be the Girl. But I just wanted to include that real quickly. So let's get to final thoughts. I think ultimately this is a masterpiece of an album. I enjoyed it thoroughly from song to song, from the beginning all the way till the end. I think Hemlock Springs told a very deep and meaningful story throughout the album. The melodies, the instrumentals were fantastic. It was as good as you can get for an album to be dropped in 2026. I mean, we still have Hot and Freddy coming out at some point, so who knows if Hot and Freddy can top what Hemlock Springs did. But this is just a very awesome album, an extraordinary album. I wouldn't be ashamed to give this a 10 out of 10, like sincerely. I sat here and listened to every track, read through all the lyrics, and I felt like this was a genuine 10 out of 10. And I feel like I'm trying not to give those out so easily, but damn, has the music been impressive, or at least amongst the album reviews that I've done in 2026, there's been just some really impressive music, and Hemlock Springs has been no exception to that. So I have to give this a 10 out of 10. I fucking love this album. I hope you do too. And, make sure you follow her, buy tickets to her shows, and do all that stuff. I'm not going to do that here because, she's already a well-established artist, and you all know where to find all that info out. So this is going to be it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time.